If you're watching your child struggle with sleep or big emotions, sensory overwhelm, or anxiety, or constant meltdowns, it can feel like these problems just appeared out of nowhere, like something suddenly broke or changed in the last year or two. But what I want to gently walk you through today is this idea that most of these challenges did not start last week or even last year. They usually started much, much earlier, sometimes before your child was even born. And that's not meant to scare you or blame you. It's meant to bring relief, because when you understand the real causes, you stop blaming yourself and you stop blaming your child, and you start seeing the bigger picture of how the nervous system develops and why some kids simply need more support than others. My name's Dr. Steve Lako from Lako Family Chiropractic, and in our office, we spend a lot of time helping parents connect these dots, because once families understand where these patterns come from, everything starts to make more sense. Before we talk about anything else, I want to say something very clearly, because parents carry way too much guilt around this topic, and it's not that it's their fault. Nothing we talk about today is about blame or about doing something wrong. It's about understanding how biology and stress and development interact. Because even in the healthiest, most loving families, kids can still struggle with regulation. Life is complex, bodies are complex, and sometimes a child's nervous system just has a harder starting point. Our job is not to look backwards with guilt, it's to look forward with clarity and support. Something most people never talk about is that a child's nervous system story does not start at birth. It starts before pregnancy and even during conception. For families who have gone through fertility challenges or IVF, first of all, I want to say how grateful we should be that those resources exist, because they help so many families create the children they deeply want and love. And that is a beautiful thing. But we also have to acknowledge that those journeys can come with significant physical and emotional stress. Multiple medical procedures, hormonal changes, and months or years of uncertainty and stress hormones absolutely influence the developing nervous system. That does not mean IVF causes problems or that is wrong, not at all. It simply means that high stress environments in any form can shape early development. And this is true for any family, not just fertility journeys, because stress, illness, medication, lack of sleep, and emotional strain can all affect the early environment that a baby begins life in. Pregnancy is really the first classroom for the nervous system. The baby's not just growing arms and legs, they're wiring their brain every single day. And they're doing it while completely connected to mom's physiology. If mom is calm and regulated, that sends one set of signals. If mom's under chronic stress, sick frequently, exhausted, or overwhelmed, that sets another set of signals. Again, this is not about blame, because modern life is stressful and no pregnancy is perfect. But it helps explain why some kids are born with nervous systems that are already a little more reactive or a little more sensitive. We sometimes see this show up as babies who startle easily, have trouble sleeping, they cry more, struggle with feeding, or seem like on edge from the very beginning. And many parents will say they were intense even as a baby, which is often the first clue that their regulation system was working harder from day one. Then comes birth, which is one of the most neurologically intense experiences a human will ever go through. Birth is not just a delivery, it's a massive stress and transition event for both mom and baby. Long labors, fast labors, C-sections, inductions, vacuum or forceps deliveries, cord issues, positioning problems, or simply a very overwhelming birth can all place extra stress on the baby's nervous system. Sometimes babies compensate beautifully, sometimes they do not. When the body experiences stress or trauma at this stage, it can affect how the brainstem and upper cervical areas develop, which are deeply connected to autonomic regulation, meaning heart rate and breathing and digestion, and that all-important shift between stress and calm. If that system starts with life slightly dysregulated, the child may already have a harder time downshifting into rest and recovery. Here's something that's incredibly important and almost never explained to parents. The brain develops from the bottom up and from the back forward. The survival and regulation centers develop first, and the higher thinking and emotional control centers develop later. That means the brainstem and cerebellum, the areas that control regulation and movement, coordination, and basic survival functions, form the foundation for everything else. The emotional brain builds on top of that. Then finally, the thinking brain, the prefrontal cortex, builds last. So if the foundation is shaky, the higher levels struggle. If the lower brain is stuck in stress mode, the upper brain cannot focus, regulate emotions, or behave the way we expect. We often see terms like disaffrontation, where the brain is not receiving clean sensory input, or dyskinesia, where movement patterns are less organized. And these are not random diagnoses, they are signs and signals that early foundational wiring did not develop as smoothly as it could have. Because those lower brain regions process sensory and movement information first, sensory challenges are often the earliest visible signs that something's off. A child may be overly sensitive to touch or noise. They might crave constant movement, seem clumsy, struggle with coordination, or avoid certain environments. Parents often think these are personality traits, but they're usually neurological clues. The brain's either receiving too much input, not enough input, or poorly organized input. And when that happens, the nervous system never feels fully certain or safe. And when the brain does not feel safe, it does the only thing it knows how to do, which is to turn that stress on. Over time, this becomes what I often describe as stress stuck on. Instead of smoothly moving between calm and alert states, the child lives closer to alert mode all the time. Their sympathetic systems run hotter, their parasympathetic brake is weaker, and everything feels like more work. Sleep is lighter, emotions are bigger, focus is shorter, illness recovery is slower. Social situations feel overwhelming. From the outside, it looks behavioral, but from the inside, it's purely physiological. As kids grow, life demands more of them. So school gets louder and faster, social expectations increase, sitting still becomes mandatory, and the nervous system foundation was never strong. Those demands start to exceed their capacity. And what once looked like sensory sensitivity now looks like attention struggles or anxiety or emotional outbursts or withdrawal. By the teenage years, it can look like burnout or depression or chronic anxiety, and parents feel like problems keep appearing out of nowhere when really the same underlying regulation issue has simply been evolving over time. This is why in our office, we do not just chase symptoms. We do not just look at behavior charts or labels. We look at the nervous system itself. We measure the autonomic nervous system. We assess regulation capacity. We track whether a child can actually shift into parasympathetic recovery or if they're stuck in that stress physiology. Because when we improve the foundation, everything built on top of it improves too. We often see sleep deepen, emotions soften, focus improve, and kids simply feel more comfortable in their own body, not because we force behavior, but because their system finally feels safe. If you're listening to this and connecting the dots for your own child, I hope what you feel right now is not guilt, but relief, because these patterns are understandable and they're changeable. Your child is not broken, and you did not fail them. They may simply have started life with a nervous system that needed more support than most. If you want to keep learning, we share a lot of education across our social platforms and on our website, so you can better understand what your child's going through. And if this feels personal, if you want something or someone to talk to and talk through with you, you can always reach out and message us privately. We're here to help and make sense of everything that you're going through and figure out the next right step together.